In this session, we will talk about how to get your AI-generated content ranked on page 1 of Google. And I have Deirdre Tshien of Capsho, and I just found out about this tool recently from one of my guests on the summit, Molly Mahoney, and she was raving a lot about it. She was talking that this is one of her tools, and there's a lot of tools she could pick. And I was like really curious, so I checked it out, and then obviously I reached out to Deirdre for coming on this summit here and doing this session. So I'm really excited to kind of dive into how she's using this. She can also tell us a little bit more about how this is different things like that. But Deirdre, warm welcome to the session here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited. I think we're going to nerd out on some really cool things today.
Yeah, because I'm really passionate about like content that can scale and actually rank, because there's a place for everything, right? There's social media, but sometimes it disappears. But when we have content that can rank in Google, it's actually sticks. You can actually get traffic to your website. I heard from, for example, Yulia McCoy. She sold a business just because she had a lot of traffic to her website. So before we get into kind of the details here, tell me a little bit about how you got into the world of AI and what it is that you do with your tool Capsho, which is
Yeah.
really, really awesome, I think.
Yeah, I'll start with what Capsho does, and then we can maybe go back into how I got into it. But the Capsho is basically an AI-powered content marketer. It is for entrepreneurs who create some form of long-form audio or video content. So we're talking entrepreneurs who podcast, who YouTube, who live stream, which is why Molly is such a fan, because she does a lot of live streaming. And basically what Capsho does is it takes that content, that audio video content, and then it creates a bucket load of content for the user. So, and I'll show a little bit of behind the scenes later, but we're talking a podcast title and description, YouTube title and description, emails, social media captions across all the different platforms, LinkedIn article, 4 types of blog posts. It does smart identification of sound bites. It pulls out quotes. It has a short form script generator. It does a lot of things that we don't ever think about when we are looking to actually get to amplify our message and promote what it is that we do. A lot of times, because I went through this, is we might hit publish on a podcast or a YouTube video or a live stream, but then that's the start, right? And then you have to actually promote the thing to actually get it out there.
It's like a multiplier, right? You want to
exactly.
you want to get your message out there from
Yes.
We are recording this now. This could turn into many pieces of content, an
100%.
in-depth blog post, social media, a lot of social media posts, like both written and short form content. So the opportunities are endless.
Yes,
so, yeah.
For sure. So that's what Capsho does. And how I got into it was, it's, I'll try to keep it as short as possible, but essentially a couple of ways. So one was in my past life, when I was in corporate, I was actually working for an investment bank, and I was in the innovation team, and my whole role was to look at emerging technologies like AI, like blockchain, and figure out how it could apply in a banking context. And so I actually knew about the technology, this is going more than 10 years ago. So if that ages me, but it was a while, because it was I know that we think that AI is suddenly just a thing now, but it was like even, 10, 20, 50 years ago, there was a lot of research into it. And so that was when I just knew about it. And I kind of knew how it was very use case driven. So that was the first, but I kind of went into entrepreneurship, and entrepreneurship, we actually started in hospitality. So it was actually something completely different. And then that was in Australia. You might be able to tell from my accent. And then when we moved to the States 4 years ago, and when COVID hit, especially, like a lot of people, other entrepreneurs, it was all about being online. And so I actually had my first coaching business. I had an agency business, transitioned that into a coaching business. And that was when I started my first podcast. And so when I talk about, I know firsthand the problems with when you think that you're creating something to promote yourself, but it's not only not promoting you, but it's also taking, you feel like you're also having to promote something apart from your business. It's like, this doesn't make sense. I'm trying to promote my business and I'm trying to promote my podcast. I'm like, what is happening? There's just too much time being
especially
spent
when
on
you're
all of this.
starting yourself. I've said to many people now, I think a few years ago, only just a few short years ago, I think you needed 5 to 10 team members to do what
Yes.
one or two people can do right now, which is
Yes.
crazy, right?
It,
Like you can amplify it so much.
yes, exactly. And oh gosh, so I was kind of like in the drudgery of that. And
Yeah,
I did have, at the time, I think I had 3 VAs helping,
yeah.
and it was across like social media, obviously my podcast, blog. We were trying to do all the things, and it was literally burning us out just to,
Mhm.
again, get what it is that we're trying to say, the message out there. Um, and alongside that, because that coaching business was actually for e-commerce entrepreneurs, because that was what my agency was in before. And it was really interesting, the conversations I was having with them, because all the time I was telling them, hey, if you're going to be on social media, or if you're going to be you have to promote you. They were just starting businesses, right?
Mhm.
And we know from an e-commerce perspective that anyone can go out and sell a thing. Like they can all sell shirts, they can all sell, so what is, at the end of the day, what is it that differentiates, me, you from the next person? It's going to be who we are. Like it's us, right? That's our core differentiating. So I would tell my clients, I'd be like, okay, I know that you might have gone into a product because you wanted to hide behind your thing, but for now, you're going to have to be the face. You're going to have to tell your story. Like you're going to have to actually connect with your audience, the people who you're trying to bring in. And they'd be like, oh my gosh, okay, Deirdre, I get what you're trying to say, but I don't know how to do this. How do I tell my story? And really interestingly, the first iteration of Capsho, which we launched December 2021, 2021,
Mm.
it was very rudimentary, and it was actually something a little bit different. It was to help entrepreneurs who had that problem of struggling to tell their story. It would sort of prompt them through some things to do that, and then the software would convert that into a bank of social media captions and emails. So that was like the first kind of
Very
play
interesting.
in the software thing. And then,
Yeah.
in my mind, I was like, oh my gosh, this is like the best thing since sliced bread, as we all think about, when we're building something. But, like a few weeks after that, it was like not really getting much traction at all. And so I was speaking to my coach at the time, and I was like, maybe it's just a messaging thing. I just need to change the headline. This would be a
Just a
quick
quick, was
call.
that around when Jasper came out? Because you must have you must have tried a lot of tools, right? A lot of AI tools that came out, because that was before ChatGPT and OpenAI just launched this to kind of to everyone, right? And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
that's just amplified everything with AI. But before there
Yes.
was like, I think it was around 2021 or something, when Jasper and some other
Copy
copy.ai, and
AI.
so you must have tried these, and maybe some, okay, maybe that's not working exactly how you want it. I'm not sure, but that's how you usually solve your own problems first.
Yeah. So in this case, I was definitely solving our clients' problems, and I think you're right,
Yeah.
because I did try them, and what was always missing to me was like that there was no context to the content that was getting created, and that's why I went down this path instead of, hey, actually, why don't you tell Capsho your story, and then that's what we're going to base the content on, because it needed. I'm a big believer in that context and in the authenticity and the personal stories of people. And so, yeah, so Jasper and Copy AI were before Capsho, but to your point, because I hadn't really thought about that, but now that you mentioned it, I was like, yeah, I think that was the difference that I wanted to take with Capsho.
Okay.
But then, it didn't really take off, and I was like, oh, there's something wrong with the way that it's positioned. And the more that I spoke to my coach, the more that he was like, well, think about the audience that you're trying to target. At that time, I was very much in the headspace of, oh, okay, it's going to be entrepreneurs, and it's going to be e-commerce entrepreneurs. And how much time do you spend having to actually convince them that telling their story is, the thing they have to do? I was like, yeah, I probably spend way too much time. So they're not going to be the right audience for what it is that you ultimately want to build. Rethink that. So I had to go back to basics, which as a marketer, I'm like, of course, we do this all the
Yeah.
time, right? Like, and the more that I thought about it, because he was like, really think about who it is that are already telling the stories. And the reason why he said that was because at the time as well, I was actually writing my book called Honey Trap Marketing. And so he was like, you're writing a book. Is it authors that makes it? Because they know how to tell their story and stuff. I was like, maybe, but it's not really quite, I don't see myself as an author, for example. Like I'm not passionate about that. But I was like, oh my gosh, I have a podcast, the podcast that I had started and I was struggling with and was burning my team out. And then things just started clicking into place. And so basically then the great thing about the podcast was that we already had a starting point for that story. Capsho didn't have to prompt people through telling the story. It's like, we can just ingest that content, and then that's where we can really do some magic with it. And so that's really where Capsho, as it kind of is now, so we launched Capsho 1.0 in terms of this version of it in mid-July of last year. Since then, we've launched Capsho 2.0 in the beginning of this year, and we're already working on Capsho 3.0. So it's a
that's a wide
beast.
journey. I love this. I love these kind of things when you reiterate the things and then it's like working. It's kind of, you already had it, but let's get into that a little bit, because I think it's basically how it works is you have maybe a podcast episode. Could that be on YouTube or anywhere, any
Yes.
platform basically? And
Yeah.
you will put a link or something like that, and Capsho does the rest basically.
Yes.
So that is where the SEO comes in, which we're gonna get to. But yeah, I just wanted to understand how it works for everyone. So that's just how you do it. So it's pretty simple then. So Capsho does the rest after. What do you need to do anything else, or is just the link?
Yeah. So basically, we are big believers that AI can only get you so far, and that you as the human, as a creator, has to do the last 10, 15, 20%. This was actually what precipitated the Capsho 2.0 change, because we kind of always counterintuitively made it a little less seamless so that it forced people to have to interact with their content. Because what we could see, and Capsho 2.0 was really, in a sense, a response to ChatGPT and to all of the, because suddenly it was like AI was the thing, and there were a lot of competitors flooding the market, and it was all about, it was kind of like, what I could see if I projected that out was that we would have operating in this world of what I call content vomit, right? It's so easy to create content that it would just be like, the internet would be just be slush of content vomit.
Yes.
And I was like, as someone in the AI space, I didn't feel good about contributing to that. And I really wanted to make it very clear that we still need to own our content. We don't know what's necessarily happening with regulations coming down the track or anything like that, but we can fully sense, because some platforms are already starting to put some things in place around like how far AI content can get you in terms of reach and in terms of copywriting issues and all these things. So as much as possible that we can still own that content and we still interact with it and we still actually make it ours, then the better. And so that's what kind of precipitated Capsho 2.0. And so to answer your question of, and then what, it's that. It makes it really easy. Capsho gives you the first draft of everything, but that's not the end of, you
need to tweak it. You need to mold it a little bit. You need to add your, but still, what I really like about taking because this, what we are doing now, it's a unique piece of content, doesn't exist anywhere online in this way, the way we are speaking about it right now. If you're giving this to live, I told you in the pre-chat, I've used content at scale. I could give it there. I think Capsho works a little different because you're getting a lot of content at scale is mostly for blogging, long, in-depth blog posts. I think Capsho you can do that as well, but it does social posts and for other platforms too. So, which is cool. So, I mean, that is a unique piece of content. So then you can change a few things if that's not looking good, but it should still be your words and what your guest has shared that comes through there. I guess that's how I would see it. It's not like you're asking ChatGPT, write a blog post about X, Y, and Z. Then you might have something that you need to check a lot more.
Yes,
so,
for sure. Yeah.
Awesome. That's I think everyone understands now how it works. But let's get into kind of how to actually rank, because you have, let's say, a piece of content, you have it on you have a podcast, doing this summit series and YouTube videos and whatnot.
Yes.
What's the process like? Where do people start? They have the video, they're taking it into like a platform. Do you want to share how this works? So
okay. Well, why don't I give a bit of a tour of Capsho so that you can kind of see it, and then and then I can talk about specifically.
And by the way, we talked we're gonna have some kind of deal for you guys. We'll work this out, but we'll leave that in the description for Capsho so you can check it out if you're interested. So I make sure to link that up for you.
Oh, that's going to be awesome. Basically, quick tour to your question about what do people drop in. So they can add their YouTube URL, they can import from a Dropbox or Google Drive, or they can just literally drag and drop an audio file or a video file into Capsho. And then what happens is a couple of things. So one is, to your point about, we are so passionate about helping our Capshovians, which is what we call our users of Capsho, rank. So some of the tools that we have is SEO scores as well as related keywords. And the reason why we do this is because we want Capsho to really hone in on a specific topic. To use this conversation as an example, we'll talk about a multitude of topics, right? We talk about everything from AI a decade ago to my journey into Capsho to now how to rank and how Capsho works. So there's so many different topics that we are talking about. And one of the rules around, as we know about, even from an SEO perspective, is that we really want to try to hone in on the topic that we create. And so Capsho actually helps you do that. So once it does that, then basically you land on title description now. So this is for the podcast. So if you have a podcast, you can just use the podcast title description. How it works right now is this concept of content blocks. And this is when I was talking about around putting a little bit more like making it a little bit less seamless.
It's like a blog editor or something. It's pretty cool. Nice.
Yeah. And the cool thing is that for some of these content blocks, when you click into it, it actually gives you options. So you can be like, oh, I actually really like this instead, replace it, and then you make any edits and tweaks and etc. from there. So that's basically
Can you
for each of the
import
content
this
blocks.
directly to your platform of choice? For example, if you're on WordPress or whatever, is that possible?
Not yet.
Might be something that, so for now you need to copy, but that might be another feature you might, because
that's right.
That would make it even more seamless. That would make it crazy.
For sure. Okay, so this is the podcast title description, and then we have the social media captions, and it's across multiple platforms, and we have 3 types: promotional, engagement, and educational style captions. We do emails as well, so we have 2 types: promotional and engagement email, and we have the YouTube description. It comes with the tags and the etc. all of that. A transcript, LinkedIn article, so it's a full LinkedIn article, as well as the 4 different types of blog posts. And
how many words does it usually generate? Can you choose what you want, or is that?
You can't choose in terms of the number of words, but what you can do is, for example, if you want more, you put in more blocks. If you want less, you remove.
No, I was thinking if you have a really long interview or something like that, which might be 60 minutes talking about AI generated content, whatever we talk about, right? So then it might be longer. It's like a lot of spoken words. Might be, I mean, you don't need to include everything in a post, but might still be like 2,000, 2,500 words, at least for a blog post.
So this
show notes would be less, of course, but I'm talking like a real blog post.
Yeah. So this is very much around a particular structure. And that's why we have the blocks. Even you can see with this like the blocks that you put in. And if you didn't want this many, you remove it. It's like, I actually wanted a shorter blog post. That's how it works. So that's on the copy side. Now on the creative side, it does a few cool things. So one is, we focus really more on the smart identification, because when we're talking to our users, it was like, where are they spending the most time in terms of editing for video and doing those short form videos, etc. There are a lot of tools that help edit, but really all the time is spent in the actual identification of it. So that's really where we focused on with this. And how that works is based on the action you want your audience to take. So are you looking to raise awareness? Are you looking to get listens and views? Are you looking to get engagement? It will actually show you some 30 to 60 second sort of clips or sound bites, and it'll give you the timestamp, and you can then go ahead and use your normal video editing tool, find it, clip it, make your edits, all your overlays and your B-rolls and your subtitles and all of that. And then it makes it really easy, because you don't even need to be trying to find good things in your transcript.
Right.
We've identified.
Time, right? So this is a time saver for sure.
Yeah.
Nice.
And the cool thing too is that we do also generate a short intro and outro script. If you decided to repurpose this and I said something really cool here, your audience knows you, right? So you might want to actually start the clip with you saying something and be like, hey, I just had Deirdre on the summit and she was really awesome. This is what we spoke about. Listen to the clip, and then it'll play me saying something awesome, hopefully.
I think that is good to do, actually. If you put some context to what you're talking about.
Exactly. And then it would have a call to action. That's the sound bites. Segments is almost for the more advanced YouTubers, where we actually pull out or identify 3 questions that were answered in the episode. And then it would actually construct a shorter video, like a 3 to 5 minute video, basically chunks that is pulled out that answers that one question. And so it takes a little bit more editing time, because you have to go through and edit these together and make the transitions a little bit more seamless and things like that. That's why I say it's for the more advanced.
How does the AI, basically the AI knows what's like let's say we have a lot of questions in this interview, and they will pull out some of the most interesting ones that they based on whatever.
And that's related to the topic. Yeah, the
Right.
topic that you chose. And then it does just like one-liner quotes as well that it pulls out. And it also has a short form script generator. So what this is, again, here are the questions that you answered. What type of action do you want your audience to take? Generate it. And basically it's like a 60-second-ish clip that you can just go ahead and record.
Right.
Obviously make your edits too and then record. That's Capsho.
That is pretty awesome. But let's talk about a little bit the AI-based SEO, what that means, like how, because of course, Google has changed their mind a little bit. Now it's more great content will rank in
Yes.
Google. Doesn't matter if it's AI generated or not, which is good news. But as you have talked a lot about already, you say you need to add the extra 15, maybe 20% sometimes to make it your own. So talk a little bit what makes really AI generated content rank in Google. How can you do that and get it on first page to get traffic from your efforts? Let's say you have a podcast or video.
Yeah, this all boils down to what I've termed humane marketing. So it's like human with the AI, humane marketing. And that's really the blend of where it is that as humans, we need to bring our expertise and time, and where it is that AI, we can really leverage AI to speed things up a little bit. So I chunk it down into kind of like 4-ish, like 3.5 main sections. So one is the actual starting content. We spoke about that. Like even you immediately, hooked onto be like, yeah, what we're doing right now is we're creating something completely different, a piece of content that's completely different. So this is us being human, right? This is us having a conversation. Even if it was just you on your own or me on my own, and we're just talking to a mic or we're creating a video, that is still original content.
In the future, we can have an AI clone do this, but let's see. I mean, we can still. I mean, still, but I think people will still crave the human connection as you're talking about. But you can, I think this technology, I can already clone my voice and get a lot. I mean, it's a little more advanced, but it's possible to do it. And you can probably do things like that. But in the future, it might be that I interview an AI clone. Who knows? I'm not going to say never, right? I've never. I mean, it could happen.
Oh, totally. It's 100% possible. But I guess it's like the whole question of what you can do and what you do, right? So for me, I can definitely, even now, clone my voice, as you said. I can use avatar, like AI actors. All of that we can do. But at the end of the day, when we think about why it is that we're creating content, and I'm a big believer in this, is that we're creating content so that we create a connection with our audience. And this is why I call it content vomit before. Like AI is going to mean content vomit. It is going to mean AI clone voices. It is going to mean AI actors. It is going to mean AI just generated content like blog posts and stuff that people just, put out there. And that's cool. Like, and if you want to, I don't mean you, but like you want to do that, then that's like totally your prerogative. Yeah. But when I come back to it, and as a marketer, I truly believe this, is that we create content to, at the end of the day, create a connection with our audience. If we don't do that, why are we even creating content? Right? Like, why? There's really no point, right? Because we create that connection because we want them.
I enjoy, for example, I'm sure you enjoy doing your podcast as well. You enjoy doing it, but at the same time, you're helping people. You're connecting with an audience and you're helping people. But also if you have guests on your show or your summit or for a YouTube show, whatever it is, you connect with your guests as well, or the people you make friends. That's what it's about. Because in 100%. AI world, or like when things are getting more artificial, you can be more human in this way, and AI can be like an assistant to amplify your message. I think that's how I would put it myself. At least that's how I see it.
I love that. So that's why that first step, it always has to be anchored in our humanness, like our stories, our experience, our expertise. Like that is really what that original content is about. And then AI comes in that efficiency part to be like what Capsho does, right? You can now put that content in and it can create a blog post for you. But then the third part is, okay, now we have to lean into our humanness again. And what this means is, at the end of the day, like being human actually means having empathy. So when I think about this, I go, what actually makes something like a blog post rank is having empathy for your audience. Because even if you put out a really, really great piece of written content, for example, if you don't have people want to read that thing, if they can't find it, if it's not like, Google's just not going to keep ranking it. At the end of the day, they're serving themselves, just like social media platforms. They serve themselves by going, oh, if this piece of content, for example, is keeping people on our platform, if it's keeping people on Google, if it's keeping people on Facebook, whatever it is, then I'm going to keep I'm actually going to rank it higher. So what that comes down to is, how do you actually keep people on your blog post, on your page for a longer time? How do you make that call? How do you have that empathy? And so for me, that means like, it's not just a wall of text that you can put up on your blog post, right? Because
I
no
was going
one
to
wants
ask
to read
about this
that.
because what I saw was like long. Maybe you can change that or tweak it, but I like to have when it's like short. I mean, when you're writing emails, right? If you see a wall of
Yes.
text in an email from someone, you probably
Oh,
won't read
yeah,
that.
oh,
And
for
same in a
sure.
blog
Yeah.
post. Like
Yes.
we are not. It's not like a book. I mean, this is like online content, so it should
Yes.
be scannable. People scan things. They don't usually read every word on a page. Maybe
Yeah.
they get hooked, but usually I read like scan things, and then I
Yes.
might I'm interested in this and check it out a little bit more. That's how I
Yeah.
do it. But
Totally.
so.
That's exactly right. And that comes down to using headings and a table of contents and rich media like images and videos and whatever you can put in to break it up, but also make it engaging, because our eyes just, I always remember reading like textbooks back in, when I was in high school, and you don't actually ever read the words. You just go straight to like the call out box, right?
That's
Like
true,
your
actually.
eyes your eyes just go to the visual thing. And so I really try to dumb it down and simplify it as much as possible, because we can go into like all the technical things of like what schema markup does and all that. Put that all to the
I'm a
side.
geek with this stuff. I'm
Yeah.
like with affiliate marketing and stuff. I've done it 10 years. I know a lot about this, but maybe for
Yeah.
the audience, we can keep it a little more simple for this one, but still like getting into some stuff, like what goes into this. Maybe you have even an example of something you want to show, because
Yes.
what we're talking about, like you're taking like usually like a podcast or video or something like that, and you're turning that into, a longer piece of content. At least that's your process of how at least that's what Capsho does, right?
Yes, it
So,
does. I think this is one
because
that
I think it's always easier. We can also explain if you're listening and you're not like checking out the screen share, but we can just see here like what ranks.
So for example, this is a keyword, as a long tail keyword that we basically designed this blog post for. And this was actually anchored in, and as you can see, we're number 2. We're number 2 on this
That's
keyword.
awesome. That's kind of the show
Show notes best
right?
practice. Yeah.
Yes.
Above a lot of big hitters in the podcasting space, at least. So we ranked second. And the reason why, so this was anchored in a podcast episode that I did, but you can see here the things I'm talking about. There's an image
That's nice.
and there's like headings. And to your point, it's all scannable, right? Like super short, scannable. There are
And
links.
for creating images, do you use like a tool like Canva or something? What do you use?
Canva, super easy. So I would just use Canva. We would put examples like and these are all linkable, right? And this is like image again. And so you make, because you can see like reading
this is cool as well. I like that. There's like an infographic.
An infographic,
Did you do that one in that one? Is
that
from
was in
Canva as
Canva.
well.
Yes,
That's
infographic.
awesome. Yeah, it's pretty easy to do.
And then
Nice.
here's a YouTube video. And the great thing about this is that
YouTube video or someone else's?
Yeah,
Okay,
that's mine.
You know, an idea for someone if you don't have a YouTube video on this. You can like include someone else's. That can also increase the time on, because that's important. Time on site or time on page, right? Which you talked
100%.
about, and that's what Google wants. It's the same on any platform. They want people to stay, basically.
Yes. And the great thing is when you do include this rich media, look at this. You go images, like mine are top. This is my infographic. And actually even there, like it's top for search. So if people were looking for images for this keyword, I rank first. Even videos, I think, am I on here? But yeah, I think before when I checked, that video that I had put in was on here, but maybe it's not anymore. So it's probably just like.
Does AI play a role in your workflow to create these images in some way, like for what goes on them and things like that?
Okay, let me show you what
I think people might be wondering. Like, I mean, before I always had to put the text myself before AI was like a big thing, and it takes a long time to even think about what goes on the image. And then it's like the design of the graphic. So
we do some of it. So let me show you what we have done. So one of the content blocks that we have is an infographic, and it doesn't do the infographic for you, but it tells you what you can actually, so it's like turn the following to, so here's the title that I could use. And then here's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things that I can just put as for each of the steps in the infographic. So awesome. Capsho actually creates the words, and then you just go to Canva.
Ask you this: have you found a tool? Because I'm looking for this tool. I don't think Canva can do it yet with their AI features, but it would be really awesome if there's a tool that can create infographics using AI, and you just feed them the information.
Yeah,
wouldn't that be
if
awesome?
find it, let me know.
Nice infographic. I don't know if it exists. Let me know in the comments if you're like have stumbled across this tool, like a longer. I'm talking like a longer, similar to yours, or even longer infographic, like a really nice detail and things like that. I haven't seen that, but I'm sure it will be possible.
Yes, we do help with something on that. We also do we create a meta description as well for you, and I know we're like, let's not get into the technicalities of things.
Explain that a little bit. Meta description is like what you put in for the blog post, like the description. Usually you use an SEO tool, Rank Math or something like that. What's the Yoast? But I use Rank
Yes.
Math. I don't know what you guys use.
Now we use Capsho.
But I'm talking like for the blog. I don't know if you're aware, like for your website, I'm talking about. Capsho integrates with this, or how do you do
no.
it?
So basically, we would, in terms of what to actually put into your meta description. So Capsho again does the first draft of it, and then we just put it into our website.
Usually you have a keyword and things. So how do you think?
Yeah.
Because you were ranking on this key, so you must have done some research on this. What's your process for actually figuring out? Okay, this is what we're gonna. Because when I can tell you my process, for example, when I'm doing a video like this, I'm thinking what has potential to do well on YouTube or Google. So I start with the end in mind.
Yeah.
I'm researching a little bit, and then I might optimize for SEO when I'm structuring the post, like with tools like Rank Math, which is the WordPress plugin, which everyone should use if you're a WordPress blog at least.
There's a couple of ways, and I go back and forth on this. For people who are like yourself, you're very savvy on SEO, but SEO can be quite overwhelming for, by and large, for a lot of people.
Many aspects to it. It's like the on page, and there's the backlinks and all this kind of stuff. I think the audience you're speaking to a little bit is like, they might be podcasting, they're doing videos. They're probably not going to spend a whole lot of time. I don't know what you did for this blog post, but they're probably not going to spend a whole lot of time doing outreach for backlinks to their content. That's maybe not their core things, but you happen to rank. Maybe you did get links for this post because it was really valuable. That might be a reason why it ranked, because that is a factor in Google to get rankings.
Yeah, there's two ways to approach. There's SEO from like the planning part of it, and then there's SEO from the almost like post production part of it. From the planning perspective, because I've been in the podcasting space for a long time, I know that there is sometimes a hang up around SEO is like keyword research is really overwhelming. And so for a lot of us, we actually don't do the keyword research beforehand, even for our podcast episodes. So that's one way is, look, just show up and just talk about things that your audience are going to care about, right? That's one way of doing it. A second way of doing it is you're going to plan. You're going to actually put some thinking into what it is that about all of these things, like what keywords are going to rank, and then you're going to construct a podcast episode around that. So there's two ways. Now, is there one that's better than the other? Like, it really depends on what your end goal is. If you really want to, if ranking, getting found is like really important, then obviously you want to do some planning. If you know your audience really well, and it might even be a small audience, but it's so focused on a specific type of audience and a specific problem that you're helping solve for them, then even if you did all the keyword research in the world, more often than not, if it's a really tight niche, like there's not going to be very many keywords that are going to rank at all because it's so specific what it is that you're solving for. I don't always, I do a mix of the two depending on what the content is that I'm creating, because I believe in just like strategy is really good, but also you don't want to stifle creativity as well, is what is a core tenet to like how it is that I operate. It really depends. There's a couple ways of doing it. But then after the fact, once you've created that content, you probably want as much as possible to do the things that will put it in the best place possible, which is why we do, when you choose a topic, we do help you out with that SEO score. Again, if you're at the end of the day, again, because this is all a human thing, if you're like, you know what, even this is what the lowest thing, but this is really what I want to get across to my audience, because this, I know for those handful of people or whatever, that this is the most important thing, then go for it. Like, this is all just a guide. This is all just, we can get so caught up in all the technicalities, but at the end of the day, you're the one that's creating your audience, right? I do like to follow like a lot of the SEO rules, but I always go back to fundamentals of know your audience and have empathy for them. If you know your audience and have empathy for them, then you're going to create content that they're going to want to consume.
Yeah, I like that, because as you said, there's different aspects to this, because if you're doing a podcast, sometimes you just want to connect with your audience and maybe speaking from the heart, or maybe you have something important to share. Maybe there's like a coaching or whatever you're doing, right? That might not be for SEO, so to speak. But then when you are putting this in a blog post, because maybe your audience is via audio form primarily, if you're going to attract a new audience via your blog, otherwise it's going to be a ghost town there, right? And no one is going to see it because your audience is not really reading the post. You need to attract a new audience from the blog. Then I think it's more important. But maybe from the podcast side is not as important, but you can take out, as you said, maybe you're speaking about many different things on this show. So something of what you talked about becomes a blog post. And that
Yes.
could rank in Google. I think that is a good, if you're like, I don't know exactly how to do this, but yeah, you can just speak and then
Yeah.
you can actually take out, because you have a lot of words during, I don't know how long your podcast is, but let's say it's 30 minutes to 60 minutes. I've seen some
Mhm.
podcasts now on YouTube. They're like 3-4 hours long,
Oh
and I
my
watch some of
gosh.
them. No, but
Woof.
they're like with these, they're like that's a trend on YouTube. Honestly, the
Right.
podcasts are now 2 to 3 hours long. I see
Yeah.
every big show on YouTube now, or I mean, they're on every platform. They are like
Mm.
long podcasts. They're crazy and going into so many topics that could turn into like a book, basically.
For
Yeah,
sure.
I don't know if you've seen that. I don't know, but that's for sure. What else? Like in terms of what we talked a little bit about, Google doesn't penalize AI content per se, but anything that you should think about when you're using AI to actually, is it something that can hurt SEO, or what have you seen in that, especially, from your experience and from clients and users of Capsho?
So again, not getting into any because we don't know that this is such a nascent space by way of not
Yeah.
AI in general, but in terms of like the use of AI is so, in terms of its pervasiveness, is still really early. And you can imagine that almost like the platforms are all working on it, to your point about, oh, well, you get penalized. Like for now, things are going to change all the time. So even if I said, yes, you're getting penalized, or no, you're getting penalized, like
Do
tomorrow, it
you
could look
check like
totally
on
different.
this? Do you check with a plagiarism checker or something like that your content? Even if now we are doing, let's say this is more unique, but let's say you still want to check something. You don't know if they pulled from some other source, right? I assume you're using like some kind of OpenAI API and just pulling information. There's kind
Well,
of a lot of.
the beauty of anchoring in the original content is that it actually is anchored in that content. So
Does it make up anything else, or does it just take from this? Have you found anything that makes up things that?
it doesn't make up anything big. It might, for example, if you think about a blog post, it might have 3 points, 4 points, 5 points. It won't
Yeah.
make up those points, but it might just furnish a little bit. If
Yeah.
it's kind of like,
Okay.
oh, you haven't spoken about that long enough, or you didn't really
Mm.
go into detail, it might furnish it a little bit, but it
If
will
they
still
need
pick
a
up.
little more. Okay, got
But it
it.
will still
Okay,
pick up
that makes
the
sense.
main point that you've spoken about.
Mm.
It won't ever
Oh,
say like, well, you got, as in this conversation, you also spoke about having dinner at, so no, it might, because I just mentioned it, but like it's not just going to come up with something
Now we will
completely
include
random.
that in the blog post.
Exactly. So it's not
Yeah.
gonna do that. And that's kind of why when I spoke about the flow of that human marketing, starting with still your core content, still starting with you, to me, that's really important if we're
Yeah.
going to use AI.
How do you fine tune content? Because you said it might get you to 80% there, maybe 85. How do you fine tune the rest to actually make it exactly how you want it? Like to more scannable, more readable? What's your process for this after it's done?
Yeah, I edit it.
You have someone to do it for you now, or do you do most of it like?
I actually do a lot of the blog posts myself, and even just even what's the date today? Went Thursday at the time of this recording. So literally a week ago, I edited a new blog post that was on email marketing. And I do that because, again, I want to connect with my audience. I actually tell a story. And that's not
What do you
something that
find it's getting bad? What is bad in this? Like, explain, like, what might, because you already had an audio, let's say an audio, because you're doing podcasts, you probably talked about this topic already. What's not really good that the AI might create this content? What are you adding extra? Like the story you said, but the AI doesn't take out the best way to say it, or is there something that you find that it's not exactly how you wanted to put it?
um well, because so and this is my own personal
Yeah.
preference, right? Is
Okay.
that I like to tell a different story that leads
Mm.
into specifically that blog post. So maybe what I spoke about on the podcast isn't actually a story that's relevant. Maybe I didn't even tell a story, or it just, there's a whole host of reasons why I might need to go in and then actually put in, because I do fundamentally believe that if I'm going to create content, I want to create a connection. I want it to be engaging for people to read. And so that's why I am going to anchor it in a story that, makes sense to me, that I've been through, something that I've been through, that then leads into, hey, here's why you need to do email marketing. And then here are the, 3, 4, 5 steps or whatever to achieve whatever the result is that you
Yeah.
want to achieve. So I will always do that. Now, is
True.
that something that everyone's not going to do? No, of course not, because at the end of the day, I want to be intentional with the content that I put
Yeah,
out there.
but people who are not doing it probably not gonna rank, or they're probably not gonna get as good results, because here's how I see it. Like there's gonna be, I mean, there's already this, but there's a tons of AI generated content, because you push a button, you can get some content from ChatGPT or whatever you're using, but it's not always great. It's pretty crap if you just, I mean, especially if you don't know what you're doing. Even if you're, a lot of people use ChatGPT and AI tools for copywriting. You still have to identify what is good copy. It's the same with a blog post. You need to know what is the elements of a great blog post. You need to maybe have seen something Brian Dean has written, or some great writer in your space or whatever. You need to know what is a great blog post, and then you can see what ranks in your space, and then you can reiterate and craft your own based on that, but adding, as you said, your own stories. That's how I see it, because there's
Yeah.
going to be a lot of crap content, but Google is
Yes.
only going to rank the best on top pages. You can
Yes.
search your keyword, you will see it's probably pretty good content there.
For sure. I'll always do that. I will also, because we know that AI tends to be more verbose. So I will actually shorten a lot of the points and the things that it says. So
Nice.
I'll do that too. And then, as I mentioned, like I will, I'll make sure that the headings, like, because again, scannability, all of that is so important. Make sure there's headings, and then go ahead and do all my rich media, backlinking, all of that sort of stuff. And that has to, at this stage right now, has to be done by human. Not to say that won't be done by AI later on, but
Yes, you can amplify some things with it, but I think the human approach needs to still be there. Otherwise, you're not going to get the best results. But
Yes.
do you use any other, AI tools for your process than Capsho? Like that, we mentioned Canva, which is for design, which has a lot of AI features now, but maybe not there for doing some of the stuff you did with the infographic and stuff. But any other
Yes.
things you're using that actually helps, it makes you more productive or enhances the process for you?
I know that we mentioned, we'll talk about ChatGPT because that's the elephant in the
Of
room.
course.
So I do use ChatGPT, but not in this part of the process. How I use ChatGPT is more to help me, to inspire me, just to give me some ideas. It's such a great brainstorming tool in that way. I might be like, I'm thinking of talking about this particular topic. What are some different perspectives that I could take on that? And ChatGPT will rattle off a few. And I might not like any, but more often than not, one will ping me and be like, I might not talk exactly about that, but it actually gives me another bit. Oh, actually, I do remember that time that XYZ happened. And that's actually what I'm going to talk about for this. So that's actually, I do use ChatGPT, but it's really more in the very, very initial stages of help me just brainstorm.
Someone who might be listening will say, why should I go to ChatGPT and do the same process? But it will probably take you longer, and you need to prompt it perfectly. I think
Yeah.
that I hear that from a lot of people I have spoken about with AI, and they have a more specific tool. Like Capsho is a specialized tool for
Yes.
certain things, which we have talked about. And ChatGPT is what we talked about in the pre-chat. It's a generalist, or can do everything, but it's
Yes.
like maybe not as good, or maybe taking longer. You need this perfect prompt. And I
Yeah.
agree with you. With ideation is fantastic. I think for getting more subject lines, maybe you have some examples. For this stuff is great. I don't know if you use it because you have a podcast. Do you use it for coming up with ideas for your podcast, what to talk about and things like that?
That's exactly what I use it for. And yeah, it does awesomely. And even if I might be like, oh, I know about that topic, but I don't know exactly like how I want to outline it or something, maybe it'll help me do a little bit of an outline. But again, it is just an assistant. It is just there to be like, hey, I know, because I know that I already know the things. Like I already have it. It's just, the great thing about a ChatGPT is that it helps me just structure it, and it helps play some things back that maybe I had forgotten, or it's just not top of mind. And so that's the beauty of using AI tools.
An interesting thing, if you have, like, I didn't use it for this show. This is my questions because I know this topic a lot. But you can also ask ChatGPT what to ask a certain guest, or you can say to ChatGPT, act like a podcast interviewer that has 10 years experience and talk like Joe Rogan, be witty and all this. And he might give you really funny questions or a good question. Depends who you to take some famous person or someone who ChatGPT might know about. And then it can actually give you good questions, or just say you are an expert on this topic. And then you might get some interesting things that you haven't thought about, which is pretty good. But if you are short on time or something, it can be helpful in the research process. So yeah, I mean, this has been awesome. Anything else you'd like to share around the AI generated content? Any final words of wisdom for the people watching this?
Oh my gosh, I feel like I've said it. Like it's so easy to get swept up in the hype of AI, and I 100% understand because obviously I'm in AI myself.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, always come back to your core principles. Like, why is it that
Mm.
you're doing something? And really ask yourself, what is the best way to do it? Just because seemingly every man and the dog is using a ChatGPT, for example, to do, doesn't mean that you have to. Like, let's just really, at the end of the day, stay true to who we are as individuals, as humans. That's what I would say.
Yeah, that's awesome. And be sure to connect with Deirdre with check out Capsho. We're gonna have some kind of deal. We'll link that in the
Yes.
description. And if you let us know what kind of platform, how are you creating content? Let us know in the comments as well. Like maybe you have a podcast, YouTube, maybe you are blogging, and then we can, see how we can help you as well. And Deirdre, this has been awesome. We geeked out a little bit. Hopefully we didn't
Yeah.
go like too advanced with technicalities, which we can go, and I might have other videos on this as well. If you're interested, do subscribe to the channel and like this for more, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Ciao for now. Bye.